Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to services on this wonderful Shabbat evening. I'm Rabbi Benjamin Zober, and with me, of course,
Rabbi Sarah Zober, and welcome.
We are so glad that you have decided to bring in Shabbat with us, all of you here and all of you out there, wherever you are, in whatever wonderful places you find yourselves this evening. We are praying this evening, as is our custom, out of Mishkan Tefillah. If you need a copy of the Siddur and would like to download it, it is available at sinaireno.org/live. It will have all of the prayers and readings that you need this evening. But if you would like to just be unencumbered and sing along from memory and from your heart, that is also a wonderful option. We are just so glad that you have decided to join us this evening. We begin with a reading on page 6 in the prayer books. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured. A beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Together, now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. And we invite Linda Goldschlag and Cookie up to light our Sabbath lights. It is on page 2 in the prayer book.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav etzivan lahadlik ner shel. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Our next song can be found on page 10, Hine Matov.
Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
We turn now to Lachad Odi. As is our custom, we will be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we reach the 9th and final verse, if you are able, we invite you to rise and turn to welcome the Sabbath bride into whatever space you find yourself.
Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמות וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולי תהילה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תפילה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בעורף אורי אורי, אורי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lachad Odi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת כלה, ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. We continue together with Chatzi Kaddish found on page 26. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah
Amen.
B'yalma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'v'chayei lechol Beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala, ubizmahan kariv, vimaru,
Amen.
Yehesh me'rabah mevarach, le'olam me'almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yithalal, shmei dekudesha berichu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, tamiran me'alma, v'meru, amen. We turn to page 28 for the Baruch Hu. If you are able, please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
We turn to page 30 and we read in the Hebrew, Baruch
Baruch
atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, u'bitbuna meshane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevei laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim. We read the English, the top of page 33, together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. The Shema can be found on the very next page.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We continue together with the V'ahavta, page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha u'b'leftecha b'derech u'shofecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'b'hisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Our next reading is one that won't be found in your books, so hopefully Rabbi Sarah will help me do the responsive portion of this. You proclaimed the covenant on the seventh day.
You declared it and decreed it. We listened and heard it.
You loved this day we inherited, delighting in its remembrance.
And began its command with the word, remember, Zachor.
From the time you bestowed it, joy filled the hearts of Jeshurun, the people you redeemed.
Securing the cause of righteousness.
You exalted Shabbat as a sign between us forever. In 6 days your world was formed. On the seventh day you rested.
And on this day, Israel, your people, rest.
To honor your name, they sing songs of praise to the one deserving of praise. Micha Mocha can be found on page 40.
ושחרה ומענך, וכהים לפני משה ומרים, זה ליאנו ואמרו, זה ליאנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי די 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 יאי די די יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די די יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די די. ונאמר כי תרא אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
We turn to page 43 and we read in the middle of the page, "Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim." Vishamru can be found on the very next page.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, שבת וינפש. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, ברית עולם.
The Amidah begins on page 46. If you are able, please rise. Adonai תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, Mezocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Ata Rav Le'Hoshia, Morid HaTahal, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Sohomer Noflim B'Rofeh Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Mishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Givurot, Umido Mehala, Melech Meimid Umachayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yelu chasecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue silently to page 62. Please be seated when you are finished or when you feel ready. Shalom Rav can be found on page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. אתה הוא מלך הדור, לך השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור, לך השלום. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. בתוך עיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Haven't heard that one for a while.
It's been a while.
We turn now to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our Torah service this evening. We begin with a reading on page 245 at the bottom of the page. Happy is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding, for its value is greater than silver, its yield than fine gold. It is more precious than rubies. No treasure can match it. We turn to page 246 and we rise, and it is my pleasure to invite Bonnie up to carry our Torah this evening.
Did he get his black belt?
Yes.
Yay! Bonnie's
Siman tov
grandson
and
just
mazel tov and mazel
just
tov.
got his black belt. Would either of you two gentlemen like to help us by opening up the ark? You want to come help open the doors? No, it's okay. I'm not going to make you. You want to help? Come here. Come here. Come on. I got a job for you, buddy. Can you open those doors for me? Cool beans. Ready? I'll get this one. Ready? Are you ready?
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim.
You got it? Just put it on your shoulder. I got this. We got it? Good. All right, got it. All right, go ahead, close it. Close it. You get to keep that for now, okay? You're going to follow this lady around, okay?
Yeah, hang on.
So you ready?
248.
Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Yitzi, Uneromama Shemo Yachdav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula, V'hagevura, V'hatiferet, V'hanetzach, V'hahod, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Adonai hamamlacha, Yamit na'aseh lechol erosh, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, Lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, Lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, Lo
Lo yisa goy el goy cherev. Lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev. Lo yilmedu od milchama. You may be seated. Thank you for your help. We are in Parshat Emor this week. We are getting to the end of the book of Leviticus, my favorite book of the Torah. That's good. You guys have gotten used to me. Nobody giggled at that. Thank you, Mana. Yeah, my kid giggles at it. We are getting to the end of the book of Leviticus, and we are about to get from the business of trying to draw close to God through this sacrificial system. And we are going to hear in our next book, we're going to hear a little bit about our origin story, our story of the Israelite people. And here at the very end, I'm going to be reading from Leviticus 24, verses 21 to 23. If you have one of our pink booklets, you can follow along in either the Hebrew or the English. See, Marilyn's not here. Hi, Marilyn. You can't correct me. Ha ha. It is my pleasure to invite up Tori for our Aliyah. Ta'amod, Tori bat Daryl v'Stacy l'Aliyah. Come on up. All right, I'm going to show you the beginning. Come on this side of me. Here we go. Okay, we're starting there. Okay, so you're going to hold that. Okay, do this one. Okay, I'll do it with you. Okay. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Hold this one. Amen. Kili b'nei Yisrael avadim Avdeim asher hotzeti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Elohechem lo ta'asu lachem elilim ufesel u'mateva lo takimu lachem ve'evan maskit Lo tidnu b'artzachem lishtachavot aleha ki ani Adonai Elohechem. Et shabtotai tishmoru umikdashi tira'u ani Adonai. Roll that back up. Then you get to hold this again. We'll do this one too. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. All right, don't go anywhere. Now, for those who didn't know, Tori just survived an accident that her car did not. And we are very, very happy that Tori is here with us. So we have a blessing, a special blessing. If you're here in the synagogue with us, please turn to page 253. And if you'll allow me, you can say this along with me. We're doing this one here at the bottom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shegmalanu kol tov. And our response is Amen. Mi shegmalchem kol tov. Hu yigmolchem kol tov selah. And that is Birkat HaGomel. It is the blessing for having come through a harrowing experience. And we are so glad that you are here and healthy and hale, even if you do need to get a new car out of this whole situation. And I've got a blessing for you. Nisha berach avotenu v'imatenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you since you have come up to Torah for the honor of God and Torah. May you merit from the Holy One of blessing, protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in your every endeavor, together with all Israel. And together we say, Amen. Thanks, Tari. Thank you. At this time, with the Torah in our midst, we think of those in our community who are in need of healing, whether it be a healing of body or a healing of spirit. At this time, we are thinking, if you are online, please feel free to add to the names by putting the names in the chat, and we will display them on the screen. We are thinking at this moment of Wendy Alderman, Laura Ann Borsoff, Neil Calder, Laura Cohen, Jeff Gingold, Jennifer Gordon, Stephen Gold, Al Grossman, Marlene Harris, Harvey Higdon, Laura Jawad, Kevin Knox, Dave Levine, Father Juan Marentes, Maria Marentes, Harav Miriam Yael Chaya Batsara, Judy Ramos, Ray Riker, Marilyn Roberts, Shirley Retkovitz, Sarah Batchava, Marianne Schenker, Helene Spinner, Jessica Wadutz, Usher Zalik, Tim Ober, everyone affected by the coronavirus, and the community, Jewish or otherwise, of Ukraine. If there are other names that you'd like to mention, please do so as my hand sweeps over you.
John Molino, Wendy Pomerantz,
Anna Markowski,
Kirk Jester,
Jojo Peterski, and Tracy Davis.
Beth Kaminsky, Isabel Berman, Annabelle and Andy On.
Mangled family.
For all these people, the ones that we've named in the comments and the ones whose names still remain in our hearts, we'll sing our prayer for healing, which can be found on page 253. Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. It's my pleasure to invite up Laura to help me with Hagba and Gulila. Please turn to page 252, and we all rise to put the Torah back in the ark. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 dai
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד Moshe.
We turn to page 257 and we read responsively at the bottom. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace.
Its highest teaching is love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any person.
That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization.
Honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all because it leads to them all.
Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. We turn to page 256 in the middle.
עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה בתומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו
You may be seated.
Whenever I meet with a wedding couple, I go through our traditions and our customs, and I offer as many explanations as I can for why we do what we do. I explain that on the happiest day of their lives, along with family and friends, the broken glass represents the wreckage of our past glory and the destruction of the ancient temple in Jerusalem, the Beis Hamikdash. Only slightly more popular is the explanation that the loud noise scares away evil spirits. And then I offer a different idea. A glass once broken cannot be fully made whole again. Maybe it can be pieced back together, but there are often little bits missing, and the cracks cannot be removed. It is the same way in a marriage. Some things cannot be undone. Hurtful words hurled in a moment of anger, actions and decisions that cause fractures and breaks. So we break a glass to remind ourselves how fragile a relationship can be, and to hopefully help us to remember to protect it from things that cannot be undone or unsaid. This week in Leviticus, we encounter one of the few narrative passages in that book. We hear the story of two men who got into an argument, into a fight, and what happened when one of the men in anger cursed God's sacred name. According to the rabbis, the man learned that sacred name standing at Sinai during the revelation. And he used this special, this intimate, privileged information entrusted to him to speak in anger. This act was so unprecedented that nobody knew quite what to do with this man. And so they held him in captivity until Moses could consult with God. And in the end, the decision was that all who heard him were to put their hands on his head and transfer the guilt of just hearing that blasphemy to him. And then he was to be killed. Why was this act, this one utterance, so damaging? Rabbi Rachel Adler teaches us that this is an unusual story and points out that as it is being told, the Torah uses a very, very unique phrase, nokev shem Adonai, tearing a hole in the name of God. In no other place do we encounter this way of referring to cursing God's name. We don't know God's actual name, but we know the Yud He Vav He that we see comes from the roots of the words to be. That God's name is intrinsically about being. To be. God is the one who is being. Rabbi Adler adds that in ancient Egypt, as in many cultures, they took a name, and when it referred to a god, that name described and embodied the god. And so here, the blasphemer who tears a hole in the divine name tears a hole in the integrity of all that exists, all that the one who is being called into being. We treat God's name with reverence, refusing to simply throw away a sacred text containing that name. We provide special receptacles called a geniza to store unwanted and no longer usable texts bearing that name. We bury old textbooks as we would a person, so as to not simply discard God's name. But can we hurt God's name? We have a little bit of a different relationship with God than the Israelites did in antiquity. And Rabbi Adler points out that we have become quite casual with our blasphemy, like OMG. We do not see what damage our casual or irreverent language does to God. And we certainly do not stone people for committing blasphemy, although there are parts of the world where this still happens even today. At the same time, we have seen what words can do to people. We have seen how hateful rhetoric has led to violence and death. We see in our relationships how much pain a few words can cause. We feel for ourselves how those words have hurt us. To blaspheme is to abuse language, the building blocks with which God created the universe. Rabbi Adler writes, to blaspheme is to unspeak the world of meaning that one's community inhabits, she says, hurtling it towards chaos and unmeaning. Rabbi Adler, in exploring this parashah and this story, uses this all as an opportunity to urge us to protect God's name, suggesting that we should learn the various meanings of God's names and live them out through our human equivalents. Blasphemy is not something that we can see. God, whose face we do not see, does not reveal harm or upset at the words that we use, but a hurtful word is still hurtful, even to God, even if we cannot see what it does. And the same is true for irreverent, disrespectful, and damaging words that we speak to one another. Even there, they may not reveal to us the marks that our careless and callous words leave. Like a hole torn in God's name, Some things cannot be undone. Words cannot be unsaid. We can apologize. We can make amends. We can even repair. But we cannot unbreak or untear. The reality is that God can take the tears. God will not crumble or wither or even hold a grudge for things that we say, especially the ones we utter in the heat of the moment. This does not mean we are free to speak irreverently, but that should we fail to hold our tongues, perhaps the damage will not be so significant to God. But we are not God. We are more fragile. And our words to one another must reflect this. This is true for a married couple starting out loving on one another. It is true for old friends who have known each other a lifetime. It is true for everyone we know and everyone that we love. God has entrusted us, God's beloved, with a sacred and special obligation, a way of knowing God that is intimate, personal, and fragile. We honor that trust by respecting the name, and all the more so by respecting our words for those around us. Words once said cannot be taken back. The whole cannot be untorn. Understanding the power that words have, using them with care and kindness, whether it is for God or for our fellow humans, is an act of love. Our teacher, Rabbi Jan Katsu, has a bit of wisdom that he loves to share. Love, he says, means knowing exactly how to hurt someone the most, but never doing it. May our words always be words of love. May we speak with reverence and kindness. May we truly be able to pray, Yehiyu l'ratzon imre fi, v'higion libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'go'ali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Shabbat shalom. We continue now with Aleinu, which can be found at the bottom of page 282. If you are able, please rise. And I would like to invite up Rose and Elliot to open our ark doors. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני אחר האחים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. Well, may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Page 287. V'nemar
V'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Vayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo echad.
Thank you both.
You may be seated. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. As we read these names, I encourage you, if you are virtual, to share names that you are remembering as well. Carolyn Javinsky, Edward Gingold, Jim Ballantyne, Eli Kane, David Stucker, Terry Gregory, Grayson Corbett, Joan F. Nutkin, Andrew Venuti, Gerald Kaufman, Goldie Brewstein, Lucille Alexander, Stanley Browdy, Edna Bailey, Jenna Deborah Danif Cassell, Will Spiegelman, Leonard Fusari, James Holly, Ken Hecht, Roberta Small-Risch. In this Shabbat, we commemorate the yahrzeits of Samuel Gordon, Robert Schaffner, Rose Feinstein, David Nutkin, Ronald Zwelling, Jack Drobness, Ann Kappas Hierman, Etta Miller, William Spencer Riker Jr., Lois Apt, Ernest Grunwald, Sam Kaplan. If there are other names that you wish to add, please do so as my eyes meet yours. For all those names and the ones we hold in our hearts, Kaddish Yatom can be found on page 294. If it is your custom, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon u'yomechon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach l'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithalal v'yithalal shmei d'kudesha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all who mourn, to which we say amen. You may be seated. Laura, can you share with us a few announcements here? I got the highlights marked for you.
Hi, all. It is a busy week at Temple Sinai. So after service tonight, if you are joining us virtually, please stay on for the Yisma Zoom after hang hosted by the lovely Laura Ashkin and her hubby. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., please join us for Torah study. They are all the way up to Genesis 39:19 after some months. 2 years. That's right. If you need the login, closer to 3. Details are available at sinaireno.org/Torah study for that information. On Sunday, the penultimate Sinai School meeting is being held at 9:30, and then please stay or come afresh if you are without Sinai School members. 10 a.m. on Sunday, May 15th, is our annual congregational meeting. There is an option to be in person with us. If you are joining instead via Zoom, please register in advance at sinaireno.org/annual meeting.
We also need a quorum, so
We'll
please
also
come.
need a quorum, yes. Wednesday, May 18th, so before we see you again, there are 2 big events. The lovely Rabbi Sarah is, of course, emceeing at the Nevada Interfaith Prayer Breakfast at the Atlantis Casino Resort. That is bright and early at 7 a.m., and so there are still seats at the Sinai Reno table. If you would like one of those seats, please RSVP at sinaireno.org/breakfast. And then if you are a night person at 7 p.m., the Beyond Words Book Club, which does such great work, is having a new member orientation for the coming year. This is both in person in the main library here or via Zoom. If you have questions or you want to register, please email beyondwords@sinaireno.org. And then, of course, we will see you next week here Friday for Kabbalat Shabbat services. And then looking ahead, on the 22nd, which promises to be lovely weather, there is a weed pulling day for our grounds, and the wonderful Michael Gordon could use some help. So please plan on being here at 9 a.m. if you are able. And then stay to celebrate our last day of Sinai School for the 21-22 school year. Congratulations to everybody. Thanks.
Thanks to Laura for being our greeter and doing our announcements today. Thanks to Toba for being our tech person in the back and putting up all of those wonderful, helpful things for all of you online. Again, please join us at the Yisma Zoom if you are online. Toba will be opening that up shortly after services. She's going to put the Zoom codes on our screen so you can see them. If you're here in person, please join us in the social hall. It is Ray's birthday, and so we are all celebrating. Cookie and Ray have sponsored the Oneg today. Happy birthday, Ray. We won't ask you how old you are. We will just wish you a very, very happy birthday and many, many more happy and healthy ones. Our final song can be found on page 322. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michamalkeinu, Michamoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us either at the Yisma Zoom or in the social hall for Kiddush.